G'day friends, just wanted to weigh in on something that's going on at the moment, and a lot of you might have already seen it. It's a bit of a dispute between Owen Benjamin and the Nazis, so he called them. And you've got guys like Handsome Truth and Devon Stack and Dennis Fetcho. They're all weighing in on the situation where you've got Owen Benjamin, who is admittedly half Jewish. You've got Owen Benjamin that kind of woke up just not too long ago, maybe in the last 5 or 6 years, to certain facts and truth about Jewish power. And it so goes for others. Handsome Truth only woke up in the last, within the last 10 years. And so these guys, and I'm not too far behind them as far as, I only woke up to the situation maybe 15, maybe just a bit over 15 years ago. So, but what I see with these guys is because I've followed their, truth career, so to speak. And what I've noticed is that they've both grown in knowledge, but now when I say both, I'm talking about Handsome Truth and Owen Benjamin. The other guys, I know of them, but I don't know their histories necessarily. But, they're on Owen Benjamin's back because Owen Benjamin is criticising them for kind of being stuck on just noticing that Jews are in power and, reverting back to measures that could somehow reverse that power or eliminate that power. And of course, we go back to, the Austrian painter and events prior to World War II and during World War II. And we even go back to events earlier on in history that, followed the same pattern of somehow expelling a certain people group, in this case Jews, out from a jurisdiction or a country or a nation. And whether that works or not, well, the probably the argument from Owen Benjamin is that if that worked, why is the situation happening again? Why does it keep happening if it works? And so we can't really follow the same pattern of history and expect a different result. So, and especially now that it's not confined to a certain nation necessarily. These people, because it's their religion, I suppose, have a stranglehold on the entire world. Even 70, 80 years ago there in World War II, even at that point, they had so much power that, Adolf Hitler, with the entire force and backing and support and power and will of the arguably most intelligent, hardworking, upstanding moral citizens in the entire world, even with all that support and power and knowledge and wisdom and intelligence and will, could he not win against this power? And he put up a good fight, and he was right about a lot of things. And he has been demonised, and the Nazis, the National Socialists is the correct term. They had a lot of things right, and they had they had the right to defend themselves because the Jewish power was at war with them, admittedly, and that's just how they roll. That's how it is. That's how they fight war, by deception. That's stated in their motto, of the Mossad, as we know. So, but back to the point where, that was just the latest example of trying to fight this power by physical means. You know, elimination, um, you know, bullets and guns, so forth. So the reason why, and so these guys like Handsome Truth and Fetcher and Devon Stack, a lot of these people want to kind of do that again. They want to just, 110. They want to get them out. They want to send them back to Israel or to just anywhere, just not in their country, which is, going to be harder today than ever before because they've got more power today than ever before. So, let alone the power of someone like Adolf Hitler, who had all that support we were talking about. And they just destroyed Germany and to this day has it under the thumb. So, I don't know where these people think they're going to get the organisation or the will from, or the manpower or the weapons or anything like that to, get these people out of their country. So, and they're, besides they're, they're on the wrong track, because you cannot fight a spiritual nation with physical force and by physical means. See, because these people, they have a nation. They call it Judea. In the 30s, it said in the papers, Judea declares war on Germany. You could call it organised world Jewry, the Jews of the world. Some are secular, some are religious, some are Sephardic, some are Ashkenazi. There's all kinds of Jews, but they are bound by what they call chosenness, where, even if you believe the history, at a certain time, God chose them to, as a conduit to tikkun olam, which is, make the world better kind of thing. So this chosenness gives them a certain sense of entitlement. And over the millennia, they have, found ways to rule over people, because they've just stuck together for so long, because they have a spiritual nation. It doesn't matter about borders and things like this, like physical things. These people are bound on a supranational level. It doesn't matter which country they're in or which nation they're a part of. They are bound on a higher spiritual level, which binds them in a certain agenda that gives them power over people that are just bound in physical terms. Oh, these are our borders, this is our government, these are our people, on a racial form. Because, these Jews, a lot of people, think they're a race. And they do come from certain races. There's not many Chinese Jews, not many African Jews, so forth and so on, but they do come from certain racial, stock, but ultimately it's a spiritual relationship, not a racial relationship, you see, because they come from different, the Sephardic Jew is not the same as an Ashkenazi Jew. They're totally different races. So what they do have in common is that spiritual bond, that belief system. So you can't fight against a spiritual nation if you're just a physical nation. It's like shooting bullets into a tidal wave coming. It's just, you're not equipped to fight a nation like that. And so this is the thing where the Bible is a book made up of many books that actually explains the problem and explains the solution. Now, the reason I pick HT, and going back to the point here, the reason I pick HT and Owen Benjamin is they both say that they're Christian. However, they're at enmity with each other. They're at odds with each other. If they're both on the same team, why are they against each other? You see, because what Jesus came to show and demonstrate and do and preach and be the king of is a spiritual nation, a kingdom, which he called the kingdom of God. That is a spiritual nation. It doesn't matter what your physical stock is, your race, so to speak. It just matters that you form a nation under the law that he provided, and that you're bound in a certain sense. Now, the nation that, the Jews rule, let's say, back in the time of Christ, it was the Pharisees. Jesus called the Corban of the Pharisees. This was what bound the nation. The system of Corban, which is a social bond, the social contract, where, people would pay into the system and other people would have their needs looked after, and they all had that bondage. So the nation, that was the foundation of the nation. And so they ran their nation by force. That was the way of that particular nation. And it's the same as Rome and Babylon. It's all really the same principle. But Jesus said we need to form a nation that's bound by love, by charity, where we all organise together in a group that forms a society and a nation. And the nation is run by charity, faith, hope, and charity, he called it, where you had faith. You sacrificed into that system by your own free will. There was no forced tax, but there was a tax, but it was self-imposed, which maintained the individual liberty, the liberty of the individual. The individual reserves the right to choose what to give. That's the difference. In the other nation, the individual is forced by the collective to give what the collective determines they must give. That's the foundation of the world system, democracy, socialism, communism, call it whatever you want, Judaism, Romanism, Babylonianism. That's that nation. That's the foundation of that nation. But the nation that Jesus established ran on faith, hope, and charity, where you gave in faith with a hope that perhaps in your time of need, someone will extend charity to you. And they did. And so he set up a network of ministers to ministrate the sacrifice, the contributions. And these were the altars. So the people would put their sacrifice upon the altar, which was an altar of a living stone, not an altar made of stone, but a living stone. These are the metaphors, you see. And the sacrifice upon the altar would be distributed to others in the society, in the nation, which was also a spiritual nation without borders. There was no, countries. It's just wherever you are on the face of the earth, that's your home. And so the spiritual nation would take the sacrifice of the people that were in that nation and redistribute it to the ones in that nation that had a need. This was the foundation of that spiritual nation called the kingdom of God, which was the government of God with the king, a spiritual king, a servant king called Jesus. This is what they're talking about. This is what HT doesn't understand. And Owen Benjamin is a little bit closer to that concept. A little bit closer, but still doesn't understand. He's kind of in the wilderness. He's like a voice in the wilderness type. Okay, but Jesus established his church for a reason. And Owen Benjamin is unaware of that. He knows, he's heard the word church and everything like that, but he's not aware of what I'm sort of talking about necessarily just yet. But HT, he and the others, not much of what they say isn't true. What the facts they present are mostly true. It's just that the way, the solution is not true because it's been tried before, and it's doesn't work. It's like they're trying to go to a gunfight with a stick in their hand, So there is a fight. It's a good fight, but that's kind of like the short game. but there's a long game. You need to be really involved in the long game, which is developing and establishing a spiritual nation that is based on love and not force. Because the truth is that we have to be prepared for absolutely anything. Okay? It's no good pointing the finger and wanting to, if you're a dog and you're biting your owner, you're barking at your owner because your owner keeps you tied up all day, and then you demand your owner to put a bowl of dog food for you. I mean, you're not really in good standing there. If you're prepared to break free and go and find your own food and hunt in the forest, if you're a dog, and find your own food, well, good luck to you. That's really, what it's all about. But if you're biting your owner and barking at your owner and then demanding that your owner puts a bowl of dog food out for you every night, you can understand why your owner keeps you, tied up to a chain and will probably give you a bit of a whip every now and again if you keep biting and barking at him. These people don't have an alternative. They think that if they expel Jews from their society, that their problems will go away. Owen is trying to show these people that, you've got to take responsibility. You can't just point the finger. That's only, to notice is one thing, but to take responsibility is another, because your rights will only return when you've taken your responsibility back. Now, going back to the point where, we must be ready for anything. This is the thing now. It doesn't matter how much in fact, the more you expose and the more you notice and the more you tear down this system, the quicker it's going to be to where you are going to need to survive. So whichever way you slice it, we need to get to solutions. And Jesus said the solution was to form small groups and to network together so the needs can be met of any individual within that nation. So the nations spread across the earth, network together, bound together by love, by charity, so your basic needs can be met. Everyone's got their individual lives and families and serves their own individual communities and does whatever they need to do. But they're bound in a network of charity, so the basics can be met for survival. And that's salvation. Because if you don't have that, you either need to go to the state, or, if you've got family, you go to your family, but if you haven't got family, you go to the state. And if you can't go to the state, you die. You might die if you're old or injured or whatever. If you don't have some sort of a, support system, you may not be saved. You may die. But Jesus said, if you follow me, you might be saved. When the state collapses, when you can no longer, whether by choice or necessity, no longer go to the state, you'll be saved. You won't die, you see. So that is what he meant by salvation. And so, I wouldn't be too hard on Owen. I think he's trying to say something that's hard to understand for a lot of people that have got a bone to pick, and understandably so. But yeah, we need to, especially if we call ourselves Christians, we need to go back to what Jesus was saying about what to do, rather than what, like Rome did. Rome got rid of the Jews out of Judea, remember, in AD 70? But Jesus wasn't necessarily in line with Rome either. Jesus said, I'm not of your system. I'm not of this world. My kingdom, doesn't operate like the Babylonian/Roman system. So do we follow Rome? Do we follow Germany? Or do we follow Christ? Do we follow Jesus? That's the question. If you follow Germany, if you follow Rome, you're just going to get the same result, and probably worse today than even back then. Because Rome fell after that. Germany fell a lot quicker. And, if anyone tries to do the same thing today, it's going to be, a tough situation. But we need to follow Christ, and it's the Christians that followed Christ that actually survived the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. And so it's going to be the ones that follow Christ in this day that just might be saved. Because at the end of the day, if you have a support system, a nation, a spiritual nation, that is looking after your welfare in the case of need, and if we're the ones that are looking after the welfare of others, that's the best chance we've got. And so, although noticing is good, although homesteading is good, most of our energy should be focused on finding other people and networking in the structure of the church that Jesus Christ established. That's what we need to be focused on. And doing a homestead is something that is a matter of course. Noticing and alerting people to the problem is a matter of course. But networking and forming congregations, not forsaking the gathering, electing a minister of the government of the kingdom of God that Jesus is the king of, that's what we should be focused on in order to seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to love your neighbor. It is better to give than to receive. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Socialism is not the right way to go. It's not right to force your neighbor to contribute to your welfare, which is what people do, even the ones that are noticing. They might be noticing, all the other bad things, but they're not noticing their own unrighteousness, which is they expect to be paid when they're 65. They expect that, someone else to pay for them. They expect that they can, by proxy, use the government to force their neighbour to contribute to their welfare. They think that's okay, but it's not. So it's unrighteousness. So we need to seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We need to do the right thing. And by doing so, we might be saved. And that's the gospel of the kingdom. So until next time, peace on your house and peace to the world. See you next time.